This is ink. Toshitsugu Okabe is kneading it until it's as soft as a rice cake. It's imperative for him to be as thorough as possible because a well-kneaded mixture becomes high-quality calligraphy ink. It takes at least 4 years of aging before these solid ink sticks can be sold, and even longer for the most expensive ones. A 200-gram high-grade ink stick from this producer, Kobayen, costs over $1,000, and for some other brands, prices can reach almost $2,000. Meanwhile, almost double the amount of commercial liquid India ink can go for less than $9. So why are solid ink sticks so sought after? And why are they so expensive? It's January in Japan's Nara Prefecture. Ink producer Kobayen has been making Japanese calligraphy ink for 450 years. This type of ink, also known as sumi, is traditionally sold in the form of handmade solid ink sticks. To use the dry ink stick, calligraphers rub it on an inkstone to mix it with water. Sumi ink is typically black, but it can also be tinted brown or blue. The ingredients are simple: soot, animal glue, and perfume. But the quality of these materials and the time-intensive techniques required to collect and process them have a large impact on the final price. It starts in this room, lit by 100 oil lamps. This workshop has 4 rooms like this, where artisans produce all the soot they require to make ink. 2 workers are in charge of this stage, each overseeing 2 rooms and 200 oil lamps. They carefully manage the vegetable oil in the lamps and gradually collect soot throughout the day. In Japan, this process is called catching smoke. Every day, artisans light all 400 lamps and cover each with a lid, the underside of which collects soot as the oil burns. But they can't just leave the lid in the same place for hours, because overheating it will prevent soot from accumulating. The flame must be off-center, and the artisans must rotate the lid every 20 minutes for 2 hours. The artisans scrape the soot off the top of the lid. They replenish the oil, and the process starts all over, for a total of 5 times a day for each lamp. These lamps contain rapeseed oil, the most common choice when producing high-grade ink sticks. Ink sticks made of soot from even more expensive oils like paulownia, camellia, or sesame can easily cost up to 4 times as much. But artisans must also consider other details, like the containers that hold the oil and the material of the wick. To ensure the quality of the soot, they use non-porous earthenware containers. Craftspeople in this workshop even weave the wicks themselves to exacting specifications.
非常に細い芯で小さな炎で炊き上げるとおのずとそこで作り上げるすすの方も非常に粒子の細かなものになってくれるわけなんですよ。やはり非常に紙の中に深く食い込んでくれるというそういう側面があるもんですから粒子の細かなすすで作り上げた墨の方が非常に色も立体感のある非常に鮮やかな黒色を発色してくれますので。
The fineness of the soot grains determines the final price. Then there's the binding agent, animal glue. Unlike most of its modern liquid ink counterparts, which use shellac, sumi ink typically uses cattle glue. For the most expensive ink sticks, artisans sometimes mix in other types of glue, such as donkey, deer, and goat. Kobayen says this improves the ink's glossiness and texture. The company buys glue specially made for sumi ink, which comes in a dry board-like form. Artisans dissolve it by mixing it with 70 degrees Celsius water, which takes over an hour and a half. According to Kobayen, dissolving the glue slowly at a low temperature is key to producing quality ink.
非常に穏やかなくっつき合いになってくると。そこにニカワというのが介在してくれるおかげで細かな話ですけどニカワの分子が細かなすすの分子を くるんでくれてるわけですね。ですからすずりの上でこう吸っていくと非常にスムーズに液体になってくる。
But animal glue can have a bad smell, so Sumi ink makers add fragrance like borneol and musk to counteract it.
で香料を入れるというのはむしろ今はその気持ちを落ち着けるということの作用の方が非常に大きな役割を果たしてくれてると思いますね。
The next step is to knead the soot, glue, and fragrance into a soft dough. The dough is kneaded every morning, by hand and foot. Doshitsugu takes care to knead it thoroughly, so the soot and glue are evenly distributed. That way, the solid stick can eventually dissolve into homogeneous liquid ink. Once he's properly kneaded the dough, Doshitsugu cuts it into balls and weighs them for consistency. Then he places the balls into molds and uses a machine to press them into shape. Improperly kneaded dough results in ink sticks that don't produce rich colour.
中がこうなんていうんですか、しっかり揉まれてる状態ですぐ型に入れないと、あんまり、時間かけると外側だけカピカピになってなんていうんですか、干からびて中がちゃんと揉めてないっていう状態になってしまうんでね、それでもちょっと急がないといけないですね。
Corbayen makes about 6,000 of its smallest, highest quality ink sticks a month. It employs a handful of artisans for this, and the ones tasked with kneading require the most experience. It takes 5 years to train as a Sumi ink craftsperson, but 10 years before they're allowed to make high quality ink. Corbayen produces almost 40,000 of its smallest Sumi ink sticks between October and April, when the cooler weather of winter ensures the glue can harden during shaping. But the work isn't done yet. Drying the ink sticks too quickly will cause them to crack, making them unsellable. So artisans rely on a traditional technique using oak ash to slowly absorb moisture from the sticks over a long period of time. They start by covering the sticks in moist ashes. Each day, they swap yesterday's ashes with drier ones. They repeat this process for up to 40 days until the ink sticks are about 70% dry. After, they hang the sticks with straw and air dry them in-house for up to 6 months. Properly drying and maturing an ink stick takes at least 4 years. The longer the sticks dry and age, the better they perform and the more expensive they become. Corbayen itself has ink sticks that are hundreds of years old.
一般的にその人間の人生というかね、そういったものの年代に重ね合わせて説明されることもありますけど今おっしゃったように非常に古くなれば古くなるほどということは言えると思いますね。百貨店さんですとかその専門店さんで販売されているその日本の墨にしても中国の古い墨にしてもね、やっぱりそうですね、数百万100万200万のものも拝見したことはございますし。
Finally, artisans polish them and apply the finishing touches. Now they're ready to be sold to calligraphers like Sho Azakami. Calligraphers like Sho traditionally prefer ink sticks to liquid ink. But in order to write with a Sumi ink stick, he must first transform it into a liquid. This requires an inkstone and water. Sho adds a small amount of water and rubs the ink stick on the stone, breaking it apart. He mixes the two to make the liquid ink, adding more water or more dry ink until he gets the consistency he needs.
することで心を落ち着かせる、書く前の準備段階ということで 墨をすることで心を落ち着かせ、書に集中するというふうに思っております。吸って書くっていうことで、書き心地も全然違いますし、やはり固形木の良さっていうのを、しっかりと分かった上で吸って使っています。
But not all Sumi inks provide him with the same writing experience.
そうですね、書き心地に関してはやはり墨の粒子の質であったりっていうので、滑らかさであったり墨の伸びであったりっていうのはもちろん違います。書いた後の黒の質っていうのもやはり質のいいものの方が黒の深みであったり、そういうものがよく現れますね。
95% of Japan's Sumi ink is made here, in Nara Prefecture. Sumi ink production in Japan is said to have begun in the 7th century, when Chinese ink-making methods were introduced by monks. By the 14th century, Sumi ink use was flourishing in Japan. Though its primary use is for calligraphy, it's also often used for ink paintings, known as sumie. And because Corbayen must age its ink sticks for several years before it can sell them, consistent production is necessary, or else its supply won't meet the demand. But that doesn't mean the company wants to ramp up its production.
けどもその効率を重視してでものを作るというのは大事なことなんでしょうけども、効率だけではどうしても昔ながらのいいものが作れないというのが。
Corbayen strives to continue making calligraphy ink using the same techniques and of the same quality as its founders.
それを一つの目標として掲げていると非常に手間がかかって、例えばロスがあったとしてもそれを続けていくというのが一番大事な会社の目標となっていると考えてるんですけど。